Welcome to TAO-Living, the Art of Living podcast with your host, Lou Corleto, where you will be supported to remember that you are the driver and not the vehicle, so that you can walk your life in trust. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this episode of the TAO-Living podcast, the Art of Living. And today, again, I am blessed to have my guest speaker, who is also a dear friend and a mentor. He's known by his friends as Joe Baby. Mr. Joe Noonan is also known as the Dolphin Whisperer. He's a shamanic nature guide and an ecstatic life coach. Joe has been involved with upping people's game, if you will, for decades, from corporate team strategy meetings for like Harvard and MIT to families out in the ocean with dolphins and whales. An outward bound leader years ago, right? So he's covered the gamut to get people back into connection to nature, getting connected to their inner nature, to remember who they be, right? Which so resonates with what we're all about at TAO-Living Podcast. Mm-hmm. And I will have links to Joe's sites in the hyperlinks in the show notes, so you can reach out to him, both in his coaching and also in his adventures. And I highly recommend you engage with him to do so. I've been out with Joe on his boat, and the way he connects with the cetaceans, the dolphins, and the whales is immaculate. The respect and the reverence, which is why they show up. And then you get to have these just magical encounters. So first and foremost, my brother, thank you for your time today, and thank you for being here. One of the things, and I didn't finish reading the rest of your bio, so I will have it fully included in there. But I want to start with one of those. So Joe and I were chatting a little bit before we went live, just reconnecting. And I love this perspective in his bio, right? And I would like you to unpack that for us, because in this day and age, it's counterintuitive, right? So Joe says that he reflects that this world is already a heaven on earth, and that the beauty, magic, and joy we seek is around us and within us. And he invites us to reconnect to that, right? So let's unpack that, because if you go out on the street and go knock, knock, hey, what would you say is going on right now, right? Most people say this is a living hell with chaos and stress and wars, right? So help me unpack the vision you hold for that, my friend, and let the listening audience tap into your world.
Lou, thank you. Wow, we're jumping in. I love it. Well, first, I just want to say I'm delighted to be here with you and honored to be here with you. As your listeners who know, you're a go for it guy. You're let's do this. You love adventure, and you love expanding yourself and inviting others to do that. And I love that about you. And why I've honored and delighted to be here, because I know, we have a similar vision. We're called, and I believe we all have a calling. And I know that I'm still honing in on mine. And I feel I'm blessed enough, I've learned enough to be aware that I actually get to choose to tune in and listen and follow my heart. And that is just a profound gift in my life. So I grew up in a large family as you, and I was fortunate. I grew up in nature, and when shit would come down in my family, Joe would go outside. I go outside and climb a tree, and that tree is still there. I go back to where I grew up, and I walk past the house, and I look at the trees, and I smile. So nature has always been there for me. And I realized it innately, intuitively, I don't know, as a kid, I knew nature. And what I feel is nature always receives me 100%. humans, animals, where I got time for, oh, I'm busy, and nature, I always feel received. And my perspective now, the quick, like, big picture answer is, this planet is a blessing. I mean, I get choked up. I mean, what a gift. Yes, there's hellacious, unconscionable, evil, dark, vicious stuff happening. And I think that is aspects of our human nature that we have to, I'm seeking to reconcile. I have that in me. I remember as a parent, I see a bigger kid push my son. I'm like already roaring. I have to stop myself. And I have learned to see that the evil I see out there, all that comes from pain. And that our problems in the world are, we don't take care of each other because we don't believe there's enough. And I actually believe this is a spiritual reality where we create scarcity. Because I believe there isn't, in reality, scarcity is something that we created, that it doesn't exist in the totality of reality. And when I look and I live from scarcity or from my pain or my fear, it's win-lose. Hey, there's one cookie left, one slice of pizza, mine. So I can look at the horror that is happening and has been happening in our world and say, those brothers and sisters, even if they're the ones instigating or perpetrating, they're in pain. And they may not seem it. Yeah, we smoted them. We turned them to dust. I know what it's like to be vindictive. I know that feeling. I know what it's like to be righteous. And I know that, I mean, righteousness particularly, my God, I feel so right, so justified in my anger and my hate. And yet, inevitably, when I come back to a loving space, I look back and I say, it hurts. It hurts to feel that. In comparison to the love that I feel now, that hurts. Even the righteous. And so I know that. I don't always remember it, and I desire to. And I believe, I feel, I have the direct experience of, this is a blessed place where spiritual beings have an experience, a challenging experience in contrast. And I choose to see it not from, me, you, us, them, but from a bigger picture. And when I do, I feel compassion for those who are hurting, both causing hurt and feeling hurt.
Beautiful. So, Joe, I guess we can just stop the podcast now, because that's plenty for people to sit with, to sit down, re-listen, and at what level am I living that out, right? It's like, oh yeah, I know that. Knowing it and believing it are two different things. Owning it and living it is a whole different world, right? So I'm with you there, my brother, 100%. Wow. Oh, we get to unpack some stuff. Something you shared, like when you were talking about growing up with a kid, and when stuff went sideways, you went out and climbed a tree, right? Because it always embraced. Last year we were holding an event, and somebody was talking about not being supported, and this just insight flash came, and I'm like, oh, hold on a second, I get it. There's times when I go into my victimhood and I'm like, oh, I'm not supported, people don't, and then it hit me, which was, hold on a second, like as Joe just talked about, which was, nature doesn't do that, right? People, because of our stuff and our pain, meaning, like, if you should ever go in a moment where you feel like, oh, I'm not supported, when you walk, does the earth move away from you? Do you fall off the earth? Does the sun not shine on you, right? So we're always supported. What are we
Mm.
focusing on, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's always
Mm-hmm.
there, right? Life is,
Mm-hmm.
and back to that victim consciousness, right? Does life happen to me or does life
Mm-hmm.
happen for me? And if you were to
Mm.
listen to the way Joe was speaking, he was saying, I choose. Well, that's the beauty,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if I just let my environment dictate my life, then I will end up, which I spent decades in, victim
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, right? This happens to
Yeah.
me, the scarcity, the fear, the pain. And then I just keep focusing on that and reliving it. And I'm in that loop that feels like, right? I get the bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Shit happens on another day, whatever that sticker is, right? Um, Life's a bitch and you die, right? All those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I get to choose to see
Mm-hmm.
heaven on earth. I get to choose to
Mm-hmm.
see people, right? All the things that Joe was just saying. So beautiful. Um,
Mm.
and so let's segue into that vision and how
Mm-hmm.
your part of your work, well, it's the essence of your work, but part of the practical part of the work, your adventures when you take people out.
Mm-hmm.
Why the ocean, right? So here's this, Joe and I have this huge, deep relationship um, with the ocean, right? So I remember before I started, like when I was a kid watching Jacques Cousteau and the old Flipper movie
Mm-hmm.
in the 70s, right? My love for this. And then I first, when I got certified as a scuba diver as a teenager, and I've been blessed to be all over the world diving, scuba diving, free diving, engaging with cetaceans and sharks and all the species. And it's 3/4 of our planet that most two legs never explore,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Most, the two legs, meaning humans. I'm talking
Yeah.
listening audience, not you. Um, we stay on land, right? We travel to
Yeah.
different continents and other states, but we stay on land. But that's only 1/4 of our planet. So
Mm.
the life, the energy, and the species. So what attracted you to that? And this eventually will, I'm going to slide into that conversation about presence that we had last week,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a powerful piece. Yeah. So
Mm.
where did your love from nature on land to nature underwater tap, and how do you integrate that with your clients now?
So I grew up in southern Maine with a very cold ocean. And I loved lakes and streams and ponds, but the ocean was cold and it was scary. Um, I mean, I was a mountain guy. I was a woods, I grew up hunting, trapping, fishing. I felt very at home on terra firma. Boom, 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 boom. Um, and the ocean was, yeah, I mean, people drown, there's sharks. And then what happened is I was in my 40s and I was in my mid 30s. And friends and part of the spiritual community I was in said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we just got back from swimming with dolphins in Hawaii." And I was like, "What? What? Like, how come I haven't done that? I've jumped out of a plane, I've done firewalks." I was deep in my corporate work back then, and I would take corporate clients on adventures, executive teams. I'd taken them sailing on tall ships where we hoisted the sails together. I would take them rafting, uh, ropes courses, different adventures, and I had the luxury of challenging myself and going different places. So within a month, I was on a plane, came to Hawaii, and I had a life-changing experience. I swam out day after day after day. There were no dolphins. We were swimming from shore, and then one night I said, "Why existence? Why have you called me here? I've flown from Massachusetts to Hawaii. I've flown, I don't know, 5,000 miles. Day after day, no dolphins. Why did you put this yearning in me?" And I had an epiphany. And I realized that all my yearning, I was protecting myself
Mm,
from feeling the depth, Lou. I didn't want to be disappointed. So
mm,
I was looking and wanting half-heartedly. And when I realized that, somehow that guardedness or protection got stripped away. It was not a conscious choice. And bam, I got lost in a black hole of yearning. And I realized it's all one yearning. It's the yearning for God. It's the yearning for oneness. It's the yearning from what we left to be here. And I went to sleep at peace. And the next morning I went to the ocean and I said, I'm sorry. Every day I've shown up, where's the dolphins? You've shown me turtles, you've shown me rays, and of course, and I say, and I'm here for whatever you got, thank you. And of course, there they were. And it's another story, what happened, but it was life-changing. And I came back and I said to my partner and my son, he was 3 at the time, I want you guys to experience it. And I brought him to different places closer to the East Coast, and I fell in love with Bimini when I brought them there. And what happened is, Lou, I said, I love the dolphins. The ocean was scary. It's like having a girlfriend in a scary neighborhood. Okay. I'd be, guarded, going to her house, watching my back, and then over time, I fell in love with the neighborhood. And I fell in love with the sea. And I'm smitten now. I'm taken. I'm devoted. And I want to just actually inject this perspective that in this journey for me, I've come to recognize that it's devotion that I love. And nature is a safe or appropriate, because we have devotion for the people who care for us, and in our humanness we all get disappointed, and I kind of hardened down on devotion, but what I realize is, for me, an appropriate place I can always give is nature. And so I'm a devotee of nature and life. And the ocean, so I started including the ocean in my executive retreats. And I would have a group of executives for a couple of days. I get them in the ocean. First thing, Lou, right away. That's the biggest, because by the time everybody comes out, we've shed so much. We're just laughing and playing, and there's no hierarchy. It isn't, the CEO and the COO and it's
PPO.
people. Yeah. So I have led water ceremonies around the world, and I love teaching swimming and free diving. And I feel that the ocean, electromagnetically, whatever from a scientific point of view, we're held. I mean, the first 9 months we were in an amniotic sea. And so if I'm off, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm, having a difficult time, into the sea I go, or into the tub, or in the shower, or just splashing water on my face.
100%. So what Joe just said at the very end is people often forget that first we were water babies, right? We're in amniotic fluid for 9 months, and the pH of our blood is very similar to the pH in the ocean, the alkalinity. So there's so many factors. Matter of fact, as Joe leads retreats with dolphins, and a lot of the people in the TAO know that we used to, take groups to Bimini and whatnot, and we will be returning with you soon. I think it's 5 weeks. I have a picture of a human fetus and a dolphin at 5 weeks, and they're identical except a little longer tail on the dolphin, right? But they're identical, right? And it's like people go, "Why do you have this report?" It's like, well, look, can you really tell the difference, right? If I cover that little nub of the tail, absolutely no difference whatsoever, right? Because at that level, we still have gill slits and embryology, right? So that call back to ocean, right? And so I'd love to, because there's so much we could just keep unpacking around just that, let alone all the other areas. This piece that's so important for all of us that we talked about last week, which was what recently at a whole deeper level you've been encountering with the humpbacks, right? So Joe goes out in a kayak So you're in Maui right now, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in
And
case
I'm in
if I wasn't supposed to give that away, sorry.
a
It's a secret hideout. So, right. So Joe goes out in the ocean in a kayak by himself, slides into the water, and has these sacred, amazing encounters with humpback whales. And he has videos, and I'm going to put him on the spot right now. Maybe he'll share a couple, and I'll actually add them to the YouTube portion of this. It won't help in the audio portion of it, but we'll
Sure.
put a couple clips. If not, we'll definitely link to his site so you can see some of the clips because they're astonishing. The piece though was around presence, right?
Mhm.
That being not centered and how they respond, and being deeply centered and connected in how they respond. So if you would unpack that and how that serves us as people, that would be delicious.
Thank you. Well, Lou, I know, we've swum together with the dolphins, and there is an exhilaration being in the ocean with dolphins and whales. I think it's a recognition that when they look you in the eye, you feel seen in a way that maybe you've never been seen before, because they recognize something in you, and it gets activated in you by their looking at you. And this is my 28th year swimming with cetaceans and bringing people to swim with them. And I always want to, I want to keep going deeper. I want deeper in my own connection. And some of my stuff I've filmed, I don't post because it's just too personal. But I will, I'll show you some of it. So for me, everybody is the divine. You're the divine. All you listeners, we're fingers of the same hand on some level. And so when I meet you, I want to be present. I want to honor you. I want to see the divine in you. Namaste. I want to see the beauty. I want to see the uniqueness of you. And I know that my mind is going to make assessments about you just because of how you dress, how you look. I can't stop that. I can, however, choose to be present. And that will play like the traffic. I'm here because this is the best reception right here. So I don't normally do this in front of cars and all, but right here, this is good reception. And there's traffic, but there's butterflies and there's birds. And so, particularly with the whales, I've been blessed to have moms bring their calves over. And I've actually got to babysit calves. And I've had whales come over and reach out, and we've touched. And I'm saying that in an ordinary voice. I can't believe it. I mean, there is, for me, it's kind of like preparing for conscious ET contact. How much space can I hold if a shark shows up, if a whale shows up, and so the presence from Lou and I, we were talking about, I knew this year, it's like, I need to go deeper and I don't know how. Because I believe how I show up has a direct influence, just like how you're listening to this podcast. Okay, if you're like still in your skeptical mind, this guy, that's what you're gonna reap. If you're like, well, these guys are speaking as deeply and clearly from their heart as they know how to do in this moment. In that recognition, something more becomes available. Mm. And that's how I desire to be, particularly when I'm with a 40-foot, 40-ton whale and her 15-foot, 1,500-pound calf. I want to be chill. All right. And I don't want to just be chill. I get devotional. I make a conscious choice. I want to be as present as I can be. And what has happened this year, I mean, and proximity to me is a measure of intimacy. We're all intimate. We're all one. And physically, for a whale to come, because what I do is I stay stationary, I let them come. And when they come, and when a mom comes towards you and brings the most precious thing, a calf, and feels your vibe, trusts you to share that experience with you, it's heart opening. I mean, I've changed. I'm different. I'm my idea of connectedness is yet again blown wider open. And probably the biggest takeaway from me is just making that conscious choice to let go of the mind. Oh yeah, blah, 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 and stay present to this connection. Now a car just pulled up, a housemate behind me. I can, no, I'm here. That's background. So it's just for me becoming more present, and the Tao of being present, just coming back again and again.
Wow. Again, we can stop the podcast right here and just hit rewind and listen to that section. Joe just unpacked some beautiful, deep wisdom for me, and definitely I invite the listening audience to, again, that was good mind candy. No, that's wisdom to be incorporated and lived out, right? And then at what level am I living at? Like Joe said, I'm going deeper, right? I want to go deeper and deeper. I desire deeper presence and connection. And if you heard him when he said is, I stay still and they choose to come or don't, right? And the recognition of feedback loop, right? I'm speaking from my perspective is when they're not coming, then I get to check in, right? What am I putting out, right? Versus, oh, here they come. Oh, what state am I in? My state of being. So this invitation for us on a walking basis, ladies and gentlemen, right? You don't have to be in the ocean with whales or dolphins. Your daily life. What level of presence are you with yourself? In this world of distraction, your cell phone and this and this and this, right? The world's set up to keep us distracted 24/7. And as Joe has said so many times now, we get to choose. So you can choose to stay distracted, or you can choose to put that thing down and only use it, right? Use it, don't be used by it, right? It's a cool piece of technology, but put it down and get away from it for a while and be present with self. Be present with the person that you're speaking with versus I'm half here and half of me is all over the place. What I'm going to do next, or being here now, right? Little Ram Dass drop there, right? Be here now. And so something you shared in the beginning of the podcast when you talked about the dance between the violence in the world, recognizing the ugliness and violence that's in us, and you're with your son, right? And in this loving state, but somebody about to do something to your child, and all of a sudden, the hand comes back out of a defensive reaction.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I remember, and I shared this with you, but I'm sharing it with the listening audience. The first time I swam with humpbacks. So imagine being in the ocean and a submarine surfaces, right? Because that's the size of this sentient being, right? It's not a mechanical machine like a submarine, but it's that big.
Yeah.
So my insignificance just pops. Like I'm a flea right now, in the sense of physical size. But then we connected eye to eye, and as Joe said, this depth of penetration, like I see you. I'm like, oh, right, and I started like tearing in my mask. I'm about to drown in my own snorkeling mask.
Beautiful.
And the thing that hit me right there the most was the different. I'm like, oh, I thought I've been doing a lot of personal work at that point. Will continue to as I evolve. And I'm like, okay, I've done some work, but in that moment, I realized I haven't begun, because I had the recognition in that encounter, in that moment, that the whales know that the human species has decimated the whale species for the last eons of time, right? Through hunting. And yet here's this mom introducing her calf to us. And I'm thinking, wow, like as a person, if the whales were, chewing my human family, then I would, let's go get them, versus like instant forgiveness. And here's my child, right? I'm like, right. So for me, it was a recognition that I thought I had evolved, but not so much in that moment. Right. So here's this sentient being that's light years ahead of me in the place of presence and full presence, not holding on to the past, here now in this moment. Right. I'm like, oh, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, what Joe just invited us was, how can we take this presence, this practice of presence, right? Daily practice of presence, and deepen it. That in itself is a game changer, a life changer, right? But it's on us. It's on us.
And I want to share, for me, it's like I get to consciously choose, oh, okay, I'm thinking, I'm judging, I'm assessing, and I want to be present. And it's it's almost like the mind can make a part of the shift. And then there is surrender. It's like the two-winged bird, self-effort and grace. One wing is self-effort and the other is grace. And sometimes I feel like I'm doing reps, repetition exercises. There were these two whales, and when they came up, one of them, it's so exhilarating that they're coming up, and then when the whale turns, and this Greyhound bus starts coming towards you, and it's just this total exhilaration. And of course, there's all the biology saying, look out, protection, and just this choice to, do I trust? I'd been with them, they'd come up and check me out. If the very first time they just came right in, it would be hard for but this had progressed. And when this one came over, I just, kept surrendering. And so there is, for me, in that choice, it's the choice, it's for me a practice of remembering that I have choice and becoming conscious. And a lot of times the choice is a letting go. And maybe I'll focus just on my breath. Like it's kind of like doing to non-doing. I'm a doing, the logical brain is making a choice. Okay, I surrender.
And art of allowing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. last trip down memory lane on my part. So I'm sharing this with the listening audience. A few years ago, my partner and I, actually, one of our big trips, we went to Antarctica, and part of it was hiking on the peninsula, and we came across a lot of full intact skeletons of whales who had been, at that point there was many stations where there was a lot of whaling being done. It's not anymore, but it
Mm,
was, right? And here are these leftover
mhm.
remnants, right? Uh, and then the next morning, we're in a 6-person rubber Zodiac at sunrise, and we're blessed with 22 humpback whales feeding around us. And it was just this epic experience. And then all of a sudden, 4 of them came swimming right in our direction, right? And I was like, wow, this little Zodiac is like it's like a play toy, right?
Uh-huh.
And I mean, it's like at one point, all they have to do is remember and go, oh, it's those people who killed my cousin, right? And a flick of the tail, and that boat's over. And in the Antarctic Ocean, we're not hanging out too long.
Yeah.
And it came right up and went right under the boat. And because it's sentient and it has spatial awareness, right? It could have, but it didn't. There was nothing there. It just
Hmm.
came by in this blessing.
Hmm.
Right. And it was just this like, oh, wow. Again, that place of presence and forgiveness and awareness. Like, how many people walk around and bump into each other because we're not even
Hmm.
aware of our own physical space, right?
Hmm.
Or because of the distractions, people are on cell phones in the restaurant, yapping while you're trying to eat, right? It's like, come on, people, let's get back present and be mindful of not only your space but other
Hmm.
people's spaces as well.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah, it's I mean, for us, I mean, at a certain point, it just becomes the most important game.
Mm.
I know, Lou, that if I'm having a bad day, it's my fault. I'm 100% responsible. I can, because I'm focusing on what's not working. And
Mm.
no, I don't deny the red light on the dashboard. Okay, that there's something that needs to be addressed here. I acknowledge that. I just, um, I can just do it mindfully.
Mm.
I get to be deliberate about how I look at it.
Mm. Right. So again, ladies and gentlemen, right there is the aspect of conscious living, right? So Tao living, the
Mm-hmm.
art of living. It's a conscious path. So Joe
Mm-hmm.
just said if he's having, right, if he's getting feedback from the environment, right, life, saying shit ain't working, right?
Mm-hmm.
I keep bumping into stuff and creating whatever that looks like, frustration, the black cloud. But what he said was, it's on me, right?
Yeah.
It didn't go, which we can, and I have for sure for way too long in the past. Going to the blame game, that's the easiest. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
people don't like to say that I'm in victim consciousness, but it's real simple. If you're blaming anything or anyone for your creation, you are, right? It's that simple, right? And the gift of taking ownership for your life, all of it in totality, thoughts, words, deeds,
Mm-hmm.
actions. And so if you're bumping into stuff, don't judge it. Take a breath
Mm-hmm.
and go, this is my creation. What am I
Mm-hmm.
focusing on, as Joe said? And how can I
Mm-hmm.
shift my focus to bring to me what I desire, not keep focusing on what I don't want, which keeps bringing
Mm-hmm.
what I don't want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and as Joe just he shared a few minutes ago, right, at that place of presence, the mind, right,
Mm-hmm.
it's always doing its thing. So most people that I find, right, most people let their mind run them, and they forget that the mind's an employee, right?
Mm-hmm.
My
Mm-hmm.
mind, right? Oh, I can't sleep well because my mind's running. You just said your mind's running. Well, who are you? You're not your mind, right? So get it back under management control and allow it to work for you. Don't work for it, right? If you own the
Mm-hmm.
company, don't let the
Mm-hmm.
employees run it, right? Manage it, right?
Oh.
Um, and so breath is that beautiful way back in. How do I sink from here to here so I can be
Mm-hmm.
present? Oh, I get to participate and take a conscious breath. Otherwise, I just have a biological breath that's inhale, exhale, keeps me on the planet. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
not here. I'm past and future. But when I
Mm-hmm.
choose to breathe consciously, whoo, centered here and now.
I can imagine all of us, you, me, and your listeners, taking a breath together.
Mm. Lead us through it, brother.
And imagine anybody and everybody, how many billions are breathing with us right now, and how many whales are coming up and inhaling right now. Yes. A harmony of breaths, a symphony of breaths, some short, some long, some high, some low. We are breathing together. You know what I actually...
Please go.
What I, with the dolphins and the whales, and when I'm coaching, I match and mirror. I match and mirror, which is a very, I think, the most powerful form of communication. And I'll match breathing, I'll match movement, as a way to say, I see you, because you cannot help but feel seen. And in those situations, it's my desire for you. I want you to get that I see you. And in my humanness, in my limitation, I know I can't see all of you, but I can show up in a way that I get to see more of you than I've ever seen before. And that causes me to take a deep breath. So I imagine, and when we're doing our work, when we're working with people, when we're inviting them, when we're evoking, the opportunity, the to go deeper, to just make a choice. I feel like that is, I know for me, it's exhilarating. It's exhilarating with whales, it's exhilarating with dolphins, it's exhilarating with birds, and doing it with people, and having, and like you do, we bring people to a place and we say, we're here to behold, we're here to be present, we're here, and this new environment creates it's an optimal environment to see more, to see anew. And I feel, Lou, like really that is, to me, that's juicy, that's joyful, that's exhilarating,
100%,
to
brother.
share that.
Yeah. Right.
I hear about you holding your breath, diving underwater in freezing cold water, jumping out of a plane with groups of people and lining. I mean, it's you're out on the edge. We're on our edges and inviting people to join us, because we know how exhilarating it is. We're comfortable enough, we're masterful enough in these environments that we can hold space for them to feel safe. And then people get to, just to show up, to experience, maybe in a level they've never experienced before.
Oh, beautiful, Joe. Go, please.
And I know for me, so one of the things I'm doing, in which your invitation for me to share with you and your listeners are, as my experiences deepen, my ability to communicate the depth of how meaningful these experiences are, I'm challenged to be more intimate in my sharing, because it's much more personal. And so and I know we're on, even when we're teaching or sharing or coaching or whatever, we're out there too. And that is just alchemical. That's magical. I love it. It's juicy. It's because we don't know. And I love how nature responds. And nature definitely responds.
So something Joe just shared. Well, tons of things Joe just shared, but one of them is as as he's a guide for the people he works with, be it groups and adventures or one-on-one coaching. That metaphor when you said about skydiving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes when people hear some of the stuff that I do, like, oh, you must be an adrenaline junkie. I'm like, it has nothing to do with adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
My personal journey is to keep discovering who I am at the next level. So I push the envelope in order to find out, where am I
Mm-hmm.
afraid, right? Where am I holding back? How can I experience myself at a whole nother level?
Mm-hmm.
And in so many different directions. Being in greatness of other people, I'm blessed to hang out with world champions in different disciplines, to be in their presence. So I get to up my game faster because I'm in the presence of greatness, right? So I get to match the tone. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's my journey, right? And like you, it's we get to invite people, so the metaphor for me is like the tandem skydive instructor, right? So if
Uh,
I were to take somebody out on a skydive as a tandem instructor,
mm-hmm.
they get the full experience because they're strapped to the front of me, but they're not responsible for any of the safety stuff, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to steer the chute, open it on time, and bring them back home, but they still have to get out of the plane, and experience that, flying through the sky, falling back to the earth, right? And so it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a full frontal, but someone's got my back, right? And so that's what Joe
Mm-hmm.
offers when he brings you in to his adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as you said, right, this is his 28th year of working with
Mm-hmm.
cetaceans. So when he invites you to come out, his rapport with these sentient beings is deep. So they
Mm-hmm.
recognize him, which is why they show up. And when you're on the boat with him, uh, then you get the benefit from that process, and then
Mm-hmm.
you get your own experience. But he guides you
Mm-hmm.
through that process, so you get to expedite moving through the process faster and more profoundly. Yet you get to integrate it real gently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so again, the links for both Joe's coaching and his adventures will be in the show notes. Dolphinwhisperer.org, joenoonan.com. Um, and brother, which we will, we'll create another episode, but I just look down, it's all the time. And if we keep going, which I'd love to,
Uh-huh.
people will start checking out. So,
Sure.
so first of all, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your engagement in this episode of TAO-Living Podcast. My brother, thank you for your presence, for teaching me, for reminding me, for showing me the way. Thank you for your time to share with the listening audience. And in closing, thoughts for the peoples.
I have learned that the logical mind is the gatekeeper. The limbic body is the experiencer. And that's where the joy is and the juice is. And what I learned, distinction, is I I invite, I'm speaking to your logical brain when I say I invite you to just simply say, I'm open to an expanded experience. I'm open to a deeper connection with life. I, I'm open to the possibility that I can experience more joy and more love. And I can experience this life as a gift and a blessing. And
Mm.
that's all we're doing, is we're taking all that skepticism, which is there for a reason and served very important purposes, and to say, I'm open to the possibility. I welcome to see more beauty. And
Brilliant.
um,
Brilliant.
that's it.
Brilliant.
It's that simple. And
Yeah.
uh, uh, Lou, thank you so much for your invitation and for who you be, and your inclusivity. And I love your distinction, because yeah, you're just looking to grow. And it's not adrenaline, it's facing fears. And a ho to that, I say yes. And to all you listening, um Thank you for joining us in our journey of continued expansion.
So in closing, I'm going to break the speaker's rule to not keep talking after the guest just shares, but I'm going to just blow that. Oh. So what Joe just offered us about, invite life to show. So people often ask, like, how do you get these really cool, wild, crazy experiences? I say, because I keep saying life surprise me in the most freaky cool way, right? Because I have a pretty cool vision, but it's still limited, right? And so it's like, I know you're guiding, show me something that I couldn't have created with my limited intention and vision right now. And these things pop and I'm like, wow, which is a reminder of how small I was playing, right? And now I get to expand again, like, oh, that's possible, right? Oh, that's possible. So that's, as Joe said, right? That's there for all of us. And as Joe and I both hold this space of, remember, when it comes to healing, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you, right? Well, that doesn't make sense when I feel this stuff. That's just information. That's information about how we've gotten off track and how we can get on track, right? It's not meant to be shot, killed, cut out. It's meant to be learned about, integrated. So I got off my soapbox there. So back to the invitation Joe just left us with, which is invite life to show up in a new way, because it always is, but we limit it when we keep going, but this is how my days reproduce. It's supposed to look like this. We're the ones that are locking it into a particular way of being. Crack it open to a new way, and engaging with this man is a great way to do that. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Share this with others so they can too feel the transmission and let them decide what works for them. And until next time, abundant blessings. Ciao. Thank you for tuning in to the TAO-Living Podcast, The Art of Living. Now go to loucorleto.com, LOUCORLETO.com, to receive your free training, the operator's manual for your vehicle. See, when you buy a phone, you get a manual. When you buy a car, you get a manual. When you entered your body, no manual. Let me teach you how it's really designed to work. Also, help me help others and share this podcast far and wide, and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, abundant blessings.